Hello, beautiful. Have you ever had one of those days when nothing is exactly wrong, but everything feels just a little off? The laundry is halfway done, the mail on the counter is untouched, your tea sits cooling beside a chair you never quite got to sit in. It's not laziness. It's not clutter. It's the quiet overwhelm that builds when life moves faster than your energy can follow. And maybe you've wondered, when did home start to feel like a list I haven't finished? As we age, the patterns that once held us begin to shift. We carry more stories, more tenderness, sometimes more fatigue. And the routines that once made sense no longer fit like they used to. The days blur, the energy dips, and suddenly even peaceful spaces can feel just out of reach. But here's the truth I hope you hold on to. You don't need to do everything. You don't need to start from scratch. You don't need to become someone else. You only need one habit, one simple act of care, one soft rhythm you return to. Not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. The women who seem effortlessly put together, the ones whose homes feel warm and grounding, they're not living in spotless rooms or color-coded closets. They're just practicing tiny rituals that bring them home to themselves, and you can begin right where you are. Today, I want to share 5 of those habits. The ones organized women do without fail, not because they have to, but because they've learned something we all deserve to remember. Peace doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing what matters, gently, consistently, and with love. So if you've been longing for a home that feels more like a soft place to land than a list to manage, you are not alone. You are right on time. And you are more than capable of building that peace. One habit, one breath, one room at a time. Shall we begin? Part 1. They set the tone each morning. It starts quietly. Not with a list, not with noise, but with a small gesture that says, I'm here. I'm home. This morning belongs to me. Organized women understand something that has nothing to do with bins or calendars or planners. They know the most powerful part of the day is the first 5 minutes after you rise. Not because you accomplish anything big, but because of the emotional tone you choose to set. And here's the truth. Those first moments speak louder than any to-do list. Before the world asks anything of them, before emails are checked or dishes are touched, they begin with a ritual. Something small, something slow, something sacred. For some, it's making the bed, not perfectly, not for show, but to claim one little corner of order. For others, it's pulling open the curtains and letting the morning light spill in across the room like a gentle invitation to begin again. And for many, it's simply pouring a cup of tea or coffee and sitting in silence for 2 whole minutes before the day comes rushing in. That ritual, however quiet or simple, tells the body, we're not rushing, we're not bracing, we're arriving gently. It tells the heart, you matter. This home matters. Today deserves a peaceful start. And maybe that sounds too small to matter. Maybe you think, what difference does it make if I fold the blanket or light a candle? But I promise you, it does. Because the way we begin our day becomes the way we walk through it. You don't need a full routine or a perfect plan. Just pick one thing. One act of care you offer yourself at the start of the day. Maybe it's smoothing the bed sheets and placing the pillow just right. Maybe it's lighting a soft-scented candle while you make breakfast. Maybe it's playing instrumental music while you wipe down the kitchen counter or water a plant in the window. Maybe it's as simple as taking 3 deep breaths and saying aloud, today I begin slowly. The goal isn't control, the goal is grounding. That's what organized women do. Not because they have everything figured out, but because they know their mornings shape everything else. They know that how they treat themselves in those early moments, before demands, before distractions, sets the emotional tone for their entire home. A made bed says, you're cared for. Open windows say there's space to breathe. A warm drink held slowly in your hand says, You are allowed to begin gently. And the beauty is, it only takes one small thing, not everything, just one. You don't have to clean the whole room. You don't have to do sun salutations or meditate for 20 minutes. You just need something that centers you, anchors you, reminds you that you are still here, still choosing, still in charge of your energy, even if the world gets messy around you. So tomorrow morning, before the news starts playing, before the phone rings, before the chores start calling, I invite you to start with peace. Make the bed, open the blinds, light a candle, play soft music, stir your coffee slowly, place your hand gently on your chest and say, "This is my space, this is my day, and I will begin from calm." That one quiet habit may just change the way everything else unfolds. Part 2. They never leave the kitchen without touching the sink. You might think the living room is the heart of the home, where the laughter echoes and conversations unfold. But spend a little more time observing, and you'll realize the real heartbeat lives in the kitchen sink. That humble, often overlooked space where dishes gather and memories simmer, where coffee cups land after long phone calls, where spoons rest after soup stirred with love, and where, believe it or not, peace begins. Organized women know this. They don't see the sink as just another chore or a source of guilt. They see it as a quiet threshold between what was and what's next. Even after a long dinner or a slow, tired afternoon, they don't leave the kitchen without giving the sink just a moment of care. Not because they're chasing perfection, but because they've learned this truth the gentle way. A clean or even just tended to sink changes everything about how tomorrow begins. It's not about scrubbing every pan or drying every dish. It's not about spotless shine. It's about giving yourself the gift of walking into your kitchen the next morning without that heavy sigh. You know the one. When you see yesterday's plates stacked high and the sponge cold and stiff at the bottom of the basin. That's the kind of moment that steals energy before the day even begins. But it doesn't have to be that way. Instead of trying to finish the kitchen each night, shift your mindset. Think of it as tucking the space in for the night. A rinse here, a wiped faucet there, stacking the dishes neatly, even if you don't wash them all, swirling the last drops of coffee down the drain with warm water like a closing breath. These aren't chores. They're rituals, acts of care that say, "This home is loved, this space is honored. Tomorrow will feel lighter because of what I did tonight." And here's something so small it might surprise you. Leave a clean dish towel folded beside the sink. Not because anyone else will see it, not because it needs to be fancy, but because that fresh cloth, neatly placed, feels like a little love note to the person you'll be in the morning. The one who's going to walk in, still blinking at the sunlight, and feel a whisper of gratitude for the version of herself who chose to care, even just a little, the night before. There's comfort in knowing that you've closed the loop, that you didn't abandon the room in chaos, but softened its edges for the next chapter. And there's power in knowing you didn't wait until you were overwhelmed. You simply tended gently with presence. So tonight, after the lights go low and the last plate is set aside, let your hands move slowly across the sink's surface. Let them remember that this isn't about cleaning. It's about calming, about giving the next day a softer landing, about leaving behind not just a tidied space, but a message to yourself. I cared enough to prepare peace, because you deserve that, not just in the grand gestures, but in the smallest ones, especially in the smallest ones. Part 3. They finish what they start, even the tiny things. It's not the big messes that drain you. It's the little ones that whisper all day long. The half-folded blanket, the open drawer, the scissors still sitting on the table. Each one tugs quietly at your energy. Not loud, not urgent, just there, pulling at your piece one loose thread at a time. And by the end of the day, you're tired, but you can't quite explain why. Organized women have figured something out that most people overlook. The loop matters. Not just starting things, finishing them, not in a rigid, perfectionist way, but in a gentle, rhythmic way. They understand that closing small loops creates space. Space to rest, space to think clearly, space to simply be in their homes without constantly bumping into unfinished business. So when they finish using the scissors, they walk them back to the drawer. Not because they're strict, but because they know they'll be happier tomorrow, not wondering where the scissors went. When they take off a jacket, they hang it before they sink into the couch. When the tea is gone, the cup goes to the kitchen. That moment, that pause, that one extra movement, it's not about tidiness, it's about completion, because when you leave things half done, the mind stays a little tangled. It can't fully relax. It's like holding your breath and never quite exhaling. But when you finish the loop, even the smallest one, you feel that soft release, that whisper of order that says, "This is done, you're free." So here's a gentle shift you can try today. At the end of any task, reading, crafting, cooking, writing a note, pause. Don't rush to the next thing. Just ask yourself, what's one small action I can take to complete this? Maybe it's putting the pen back in the drawer. Maybe it's folding the throw over the back of the chair. Maybe it's placing your glasses in their case instead of leaving them on the table. These tiny movements don't take energy. They restore it. One beautiful way to think about this is like breathing. Inhale, do the task. Exhale, complete the loop. That's how the rhythm flows. That's how the body relaxes. That's how a home stays peaceful. Not because it's spotless, but because it isn't full of half-finished thoughts lying around in physical form. Over time, this gentle practice becomes second nature. Not a rule, not a pressure, just a way of being. One that honors your space and your presence within it. Because you're not just tidying objects, you're caring for your energy. You're tending to the atmosphere around you, the emotional climate of your space. And the beautiful part, you don't need to do everything at once. Just one little breath at a time. One small loop closed, one quiet act of completion, and then another, until your whole home starts to hum with the quiet power of peace, built one small finish at a time. Part 4. They keep the visible space calm. Have you ever sat in a room that looked perfectly tidy but still made you feel uneasy, like your mind couldn't quite settle? That feeling isn't your imagination. It's your eyes doing quiet work behind the scenes. Every single item in your line of sight registers, even if you're not consciously noticing it. That's why clutter, even pretty clutter, can feel heavy. It fills up your visual field and asks your mind to juggle more than it should have to. Organized women understand this in a deep, almost intuitive way. They don't just manage clutter, they curate peace. They don't fill every shelf or cover every surface with trinkets, even if those trinkets hold meaning. They choose carefully what their eyes land on each day. Not because they lack sentiment, but because they value serenity more. They know that when everything is on display, nothing truly gets seen. And when the eyes are overwhelmed, the spirit can't exhale. That doesn't mean their homes are sterile or impersonal. Quite the opposite. Their spaces often feel warmer, more grounded, more alive, because they allow beauty to stand out. They leave breathing room around the things that matter. A single vase of fresh flowers on a cleared kitchen table, a framed photo on a mantel without distraction, a favorite book resting beside a candle. Not everything, just something. And that makes all the difference. Try this gentle shift. Choose just one surface in your home. Maybe it's your coffee table, maybe it's your dresser or the kitchen counter. Clear it completely, not forever, just for now. Sit with the emptiness. Notice how your eyes settle, how your breath deepens. Then, slowly and with intention, place back just one or two items, not the most expensive, not the most decorative, just something that lifts your spirit. A bowl you love, a photo that makes you smile, a plant that reminds you to breathe. What you're doing isn't decorating, it's inviting in peace. You're shifting from visual noise to visual stillness. You're letting the things that speak to your heart be heard, not drowned out. You're not removing your personality and you're letting it breathe. The beauty of this habit is that it's not about doing more. It's about doing less, more meaningfully. And as your home begins to reflect that calm on the outside, something within you starts to mirror it. You feel lighter. You move slower. You start to notice things again. The way the sunlight lands on the table, the softness of a folded napkin, the quiet joy of space that doesn't need to be filled. So the next time you feel a little foggy, a little scattered, don't add something. Subtract. Give your eyes and your spirit a place to rest. You don't need more stuff to feel more alive. You just need room to see what already brings you peace. Part 5. They say goodnight to their home. The most peaceful women don't end their day in a rush or a collapse. They don't switch off the lights mid-step or fall into bed while the world around them still buzzes. They know something many others overlook, that the day deserves a gentle ending. Like a favorite book, it should be closed with care, not dropped mid-sentence. That's why before they turn in for the night, these women take a few quiet minutes to say goodnight to their home. It isn't about cleaning. It's not about making things perfect. It's about closing the loop on the day with presence and gratitude. One last walk through the home, not rushed, not stressful, just intentional. Maybe it's fluffing the pillow on the sofa. Maybe it's rinsing that one forgotten teacup and placing it in the rack. Maybe it's folding the blanket that kept your knees warm as you watch the evening news. These acts aren't chores. They're care. They're closure. In a world that pushes us to stay productive until the last possible moment, this habit offers a quiet rebellion. It's a way of saying, I matter, my space matters, my peace matters. And just as a parent might tuck in a child or a gardener might gently cover a beloved plant before nightfall, organized women offer their homes the same respect. They guide the space and themselves and into rest. Try this tonight. Not as a task, but as a transition. Dim the lights in your living room just slightly earlier than usual. Fold the blanket at the foot of your bed, not because it's messy, but because it marks a shift from doing to resting. Whisper a simple thank you to the room that held your day. You don't have to say it aloud. Just think it and let the sentiment linger. And then add one small sensory cue, a soft spritz of lavender on your pillow, a quiet song that always makes you breathe deeper, or a single candle in the bathroom while you wash your face. Something simple, something soothing, something that tells your nervous system it's okay to let go now. These aren't dramatic changes, they're tiny rituals. But repeated with love, they do something sacred. They teach your body and your mind how to land, how to come home, not just physically, but emotionally. They soften the edges of your day and cradle you gently into rest. Because here's what organized, peaceful women know deep in their bones. A home that's cared for at night doesn't just feel better in the morning. It welcomes you back into yourself. And over time, this rhythm becomes more than routine. It becomes a quiet kind of resilience, a way of saying, no matter how noisy the world becomes, peace begins right here in the soft glow of a well-loved space. Part 6. Bonus habit. They let fresh air in. Fresh air isn't just for spring days or country porches. It's for your spirit every day, every season. Organized women know this. Even when the weather's chilly or the sky is gray, they open the window just a little. Not because the house is stuffy, but because energy needs to move. Still, air weighs heavy. It holds on to yesterday's thoughts, yesterday's tension. But when you crack open that window, something shifts. Light changes. The curtains stir. The silence deepens in a way that feels awake, not empty. Letting fresh air in is more than a habit. It's a ritual of renewal, a tiny act of hope, a moment that says, no matter what yesterday felt like, today begins fresh. There's something deeply symbolic about it. The way the air moves through your space, the way it carries out the weight you didn't even realize was sitting in the corners. You don't need to swing the windows wide or draft the whole house. Just one window, one small opening, maybe while you sip your tea, maybe while you fold a dish towel. Let your home exhale, let it breathe. And while it does, breathe with it. In and out, slowly, with presence, with softness. These 2 minutes of airflow might seem too small to matter, but over time, they change things. They clear the stale energy that can settle quietly in our days. They remind your space and in your body that life moves forward, that every day is a chance to start again, lighter. So tomorrow morning, open a window, just one. Feel the shift. And know that in doing so, you're not just caring for your house. You're tending to the atmosphere of your life. It doesn't take a makeover to feel at peace. You don't need a new kitchen or a walk-in closet or some perfect color-coded schedule. What you need, what we all need, is something far more tender. One small habit offered gently, day by day. A rhythm, a moment of care that whispers, I matter. Your home doesn't need to look like a magazine. It doesn't need perfection. It needs presence. These 5 little habits aren't chores. They're invitations. They're quiet ways to come back to yourself. A folded blanket, a rinsed cup, a breeze through an open window. They're not about impressing anyone. They're love letters, written from your hands to your own heart. So here's your invitation. Pick just one habit, one soft promise to yourself. Maybe you'll start by making your bed, maybe by opening the curtains and letting the morning in. Whatever you choose, begin there. Begin with care. And when you do, come back here. Tell me in the comments. Your choice, your words might be the spark another woman needs. Someone who's quietly searching for peace, just like you were. And if this video gave you even one breath of calm, one new idea, or one gentle nudge, I'd be truly honored if you subscribed. Here, we're not chasing hustle. We're not counting steps or tasks. We're building sanctuary, one breath, one quiet gesture, one sacred habit at a time. Because peace doesn't live in the makeover. It lives in the moment,